The regular Slosher is a staple of the Splatoon series, being first introduced to the series all the way back in Splatoon 1. It's gone through many changes throughout the years, and in SalmonRun it's gone from quite a poor weapon to an efficient middleweight weapon with potential to achieve great results. So let's discuss how to get the most out of it in SalmonRun. Stats. In Splatoon 2's SalmonRun, the Slosher's damage was capped at 100 and it really struggled. It was slow to defeat enemies and routinely got overwhelmed. Coming into Splatoon 3, it remained at 100 and struggled even more, mainly because of the higher hazards we had. It felt doomed to remain at the bottom of all tier lists until patch 4.0 in May 2023, which finally saw the long overdue change that it needed. Its damage was increased to 140. It hits for 140 with its entire projectile. It has no fall-off decay or indirect damage. It is always 140. It has really good range too, being able to fling shots quite some distance. Jumping and aiming slightly higher helps. Like other Sloshers, it can hit multiple targets at once with its AoE, its area of effect. I'll speak more about this at the end of the video, but part of the weapon's basic skill set and charm is its ability to throw paint over everything. You can do this by flinging the weapon from left to right when you fire. Just as a side note, I try to make my guides applicable to everyone, but something I noticed immediately when switching to motion controls was how much better the Slosher felt. It was easier to use and easier to spread damage. The Slosher has really good stats when compared directly to the rest of its class. It is only second to the Tri-Slosher in terms of ink usage per shot, ink recovery and fire rate. All of this gives the Slosher excellent mobility and freedom to play outside of strict roles, but more on that later. You get 18 Sloshers on a full ink tank, and if you throw a bomb you're left with 5. It takes 40 frames to start recovering ink after firing. The first slosh from humanoid form takes 12 frames and the first from swim form takes 18 frames. Consecutive swings take 29 frames and it takes 16 frames to enter swim form or to use a bomb after firing. Much like all Sloshers, you will face some end lag after firing, which can make avoiding damage from projectiles and explosions potentially quite tricky. It's important then to remember to always be on a move with a weapon like this, as staying still can leave you open to damage. Boss slaying. Steelheads need 3 hits to be taken out. You'll need to be quite fast with this and work around the timed attack cycles. 2 hits means that you will deal 280 damage, just missing that 300 damage threshold to defeat them. If you're with somebody else, this makes it easier. Steel eels and slamming lids are both easy to take care of, even from a safe distance, due in part to the Slosher's ability to arc its shots over barriers. They both require 4 Sloshers. Stingers and fish sticks are easy to take care of, either up close or from relatively safe positions. You'll have to hit each stinger pot individually. Bombs can help speed this up, but you can use the Slosher's AoE to hit multiple small fry on a fish stick. Swinging your slosh or arcing it can help. In addition, flipper floppers are no problem for the Slosher, given its good painting ability. Big shots might pose a bit of an issue for the Slosher just because they can be quite time consuming to defeat. The key is to exploit its AoE and to hit as many different enemies as possible, which will save you time, but it's also a good idea to go along with a teammate. Scrappers and drizzlers are a bit annoying for the Slosher. They're an inconvenience more than an outright threat. You can defeat them on a one-to-one basis, but overall their armor is tricky for the Slosher and you may end up missing their hitbox. Utilize the torpedoes wherever you can and consider using bombs to help you stun scrappers. Drizzlers have 900 HP, so that's 7 Sloshers needed. Scrappers take 600 damage to stun and then 500 damage to defeat, which is 1100 HP overall, meaning you need 8 Sloshers in total. These bosses aren't dangerous to you, but they're time consuming and annoying. Consider special usage or see if you can get a teammate to help you. Though the overall DPS and power of the Slosher isn't anything to write home about, it still provides very useful utility against lessers, due in part to its AoE. I'll speak more about AoE towards the end of the video, but the regular Slosher is able to feel powerful against lessers due to its potential to hit multiple enemies at once. Bomb throwing is no issue for the Slosher, given its decent ink efficiency. It can help with damage and range if needed too, especially against those bulkier or clustered enemies. I use bombs rather liberally with the Slosher, as I find its ink recovery allows this. Moors and flyfish are okay to manage, and I'd recommend keeping an eye on them as the Slosher, as you may be the only weapon that can support your team with these bosses. For Nightwaves, you're flexible with barely any limitations on what you should and shouldn't do. The main thing to recognise is that your AoE may be what can make or break a round. For Rush, you can hit multiple chum at once, and this can prove life-saving if your team doesn't have any other means of hitting multiple enemies. I'd recommend taking an aggressive position to filter chum, as this will help reduce the amount of enemies that go to the targeted player. You can also use map terrain to remain safe, such as higher platforms. You'll likely spend the entire wave focusing on fighting, so it's important to get comfortable with fighting with the Slosher. Ensure you've got an eye on your ink tank, keep an eye on your teammates and protect them if needed, and always aim to hit up and over enemies. Grillers follows more or less the same tactics. You can hit the grillers and the small fry with the same slosh. You're also in a good position to help stun the grillers given the slosher's range and ability to fling its shots. Again, it's worth recognising what your team needs. Do they need a weapon to run out and stun the grillers, or do they need small fry management? For all other night waves, utilise your ability to hit multiple targets, efficiently throw bombs, and potentially support your team with objective-based tasks. For king waves, I find that the slosher is more useful when managing bosses rather than focusing only on the kings. You're better suited to running around the map, creating golden eggs, keeping the map painted, and protecting your teammates if they need it. Damage the kings whenever you can, but don't neglect the boss spawns around the map. Weapon roll. With the Slosher, you have a versatile weapon. Given its damage, its range, its AoE, and decent ink efficiency, you have freedoms that a lot of weapons won't have, and this will make you flexible. Flexibility in SalmonRun is arguably one of the best traits any weapon can have. You're not encumbered by any role or position, you can do everything, and I think this is what makes the Slosher such a fun weapon to play. I personally don't define the Slosher within any strict role, but you will hear others maybe tell you it's a slayer or a supportive slayer. I think the Slosher loses some of its charm and uniqueness when you define its role too strongly. If all you do is focus on bosses, then you'll neglect the basic stuff like lesser management and paint, both of which the Slosher is great at too. The inverse is also true. I don't want to undersell this weapon. Since it's got its damage buff in SalmonRun, it has become an extremely efficient boss slayer, and as we've mentioned, doesn't really struggle against any boss in particular. In addition, the Slosher is extremely helpful when providing AoE for the team, be it against lessers or against bulkier enemies like big shots. There will be times in certain rotas where as the Slosher, you'll be the easiest weapon to use, or the strongest, or the one with the most range, or the only one with AoE. When you compare the Slosher to its respective class, I personally think it has the most flexibility out of all of them. Some of the others have less damage, less range, more end lag, or worse ink tanks. Their roles are more strictly defined, and they tend to struggle if they have to play outside of those roles. For the Slosher, it doesn't really matter how you use it, because it can do everything to a respectable degree. You're not the strongest, the fastest, or the widest reaching, but you're damn close to it, and I think if you have a weapon that has respectable stats in everything, then it becomes much more valuable than a weapon that is really good at one thing only and not good elsewhere. The Slosher allows anybody to pick it up, run with it, and go slay or support or even just throw down paint, bombs, and eggs. Whichever way you decide to use it, just remember to recognise the needs of your team too. There's no point doubling up in roles if you're paired with a weapon that paints better or can move faster. Think about what else you can provide for your team. This is what makes the Slosher fit in almost every single comp with barely any drawbacks. Area of effect. Like all Sloshers, the regular Slosher has excellent utility as a weapon with AoE. Weapons with AoE bypass certain restrictions or limitations that other weapons cannot. Instead of only hitting one enemy at a time, you can hit multiple. Hitting multiple enemies with one shot allows you to take out clusters of enemies quicker than you otherwise would, and this makes you an incredibly efficient and productive player. You'll see this mostly on maps that have choke points, such as Jammin' Salmon Junction and Gone Fishing Hydroplant, but also maps that have height or a lot of platforms such as Bone Rattle Arena and Spawning Grounds. These maps are excellent for the Slosher because you have limitless options with the terrain and you're not prevented from reaching targets or inflicting consistent damage. Oftentimes, as the Slosher, you may well be the only weapon that has any AoE spread on your team. It's worth looking to see if there are other weapons that have AoE spread or have the ability to pierce, so think blasters, brellers, chargers, etc. If not, then you'll need to strongly focus on your ability to damage as many enemies as possible with each slosh. Neglecting to do this can see you lose time and it will leave you feeling underwhelmed with the Slosher. Shot for shot, it doesn't match other Sloshers like the Dreadringer or even the Machine. At 140 damage, it doesn't pack the hardest punch, but it does have consistency. Something that elevates all Sloshers is that for the most part they don't suffer from fall-off decay. When I say fall-off decay, what I mean by this is that the strength of the shot is lost the longer it stays in the air. This is primarily seen with shooters, but affects most classes of weapons. weapons. Sloshers, with the exception of the Tri-Slosher, are not affected by this, and what this means is that from any height, your sloshers will always do 140 damage, making it incredibly consistent and reliable. The Slosher also doesn't have any indirect damage either. Everything that it hits, it always hits for 140 damage, regardless of what part of the slosh hits the enemy. This makes your AoE all the more powerful and all the more useful throughout the wave. With this in mind, sloshers benefit and excel by utilising their ability to inflict consistent, wide-reaching damage. You see this primarily when facing lessers. If you jump or if you take a spot above them, you can hit multiple of them at once, ensuring that you either heavily damage them for your team or take them out really quickly. This also works well when trying to damage them through grates. The range of the slosher is actually surprisingly good too, and I think this is a part of the weapon that is often neglected when discussing it. The reach of each slosh allows you to take defensive positions, either from further back or higher up, but still be aggressive with damage output. Sometimes you will have to back off a bit with this weapon, due in part to the fact that it isn't an automatic and it isn't as powerful as others, but its range and AoE means that you don't need to stop inflicting damage. Godfish and Hydroplan is a good example of this. When things are chaotic in the middle of the map, you can stand on one of the higher platforms, ensuring your safety, but you can also still be consistent with inflicting damage. Like all sloshers, you should exploit the ability to hit from unconventional angles. It's part of what makes the slosher and its respective class so damn strong. I hope this video helps you appreciate the slosher a little bit more. I'll see you guys soon.